Did you even know that it was your grandson?
No, the neighbor called me. He told me she had been shot. And when I came over here, he told me that he had taken off on the...
And your grandson didn't have a driver's license, right?
No.
He didn't even know how to drive.
No.
Heartbreaking. Welcome back to the program. Dana Loesch here. That video that you heard was from the grandfather of the murderer. It was an interview conducted with ABC yesterday evening. And the grandfather and grandmother, from what we know, the murderer lived with his grandparents and did not have a good relationship with his mother. I think it was CBS... I have to look. CBS and a few others that had the mother. They reported that the mother was a drug addict. No word at all whatsoever on the father. Not at all. So we have. I mean, it seems like the problem in the life at home wasn't good. And this is all important to discuss because, I have to tell you, when we have these discussions, we want to figure out how to stop things like this. And we want to figure out what the solutions are. And there are a lot of politicians out there. Nobody here, can I just be real? No one's asking the questions that need to be asked. I would love to know, did they have an SRO? Bill Melugin said that Texas DPS told him there was in fact an officer on campus. Now, from what we understand, the entire district has 3 SROs total. Well, that's a whole district that they have to divide 3 SROs between. And a lot of this comes down to budget, which I'm going to address in a minute. Texas DPS had told Bill Melugin that there was, in fact, a school police officer on campus at Robb Elementary who exchanged gunfire with the murderer, and the officer was shot and injured. And that point, he said, that is the point at which the murderer ran inside of the school, barricaded himself in a class. Now, here's something that is important, and I want to be very clear with my words. You can love police and etc. Not every officer is. Some officers have never even drawn their gun in a situation like that. I think that we need to increase our training for law enforcement. And I think that especially any kind of officers that are doing school duty, we absolutely do, because there's a lot of things that go, there's basic training and then there's training beyond that. And in this instance, when you have someone who is, charging you and you're exchanging gunfire with a murderer, the guy was able to access and get in the school because of an unlocked door. Officers need to make sure, number one, that we have them trained and that that not just with basic, not just with identifying threats, neutralizing threats, situational awareness, et cetera, but we also need to make sure that that they are able to, especially with schools, that they're able to go beyond a lot of the basic training. I'll be real with you. A lot of police departments offer bare minimum. I have a lot of friends that do contracted work that are working with police departments around the United States to increase their training for a number of things. And I'm thankful for that. But the problem here is that this murderer was able to access the school through an unlocked door. Texas has spent, in 2019, $211 million on school security. I have the budget report. I posted it on Twitter. I went over it last night. In fact, the previous 2 years, hundreds of millions of dollars spent on school safety specifically. What is the money being spent on? That's what I would like to know. What is the money being spent on? You had $211 million. The Biennium Report, May 2020, Legislative Budget Board staff. Under school safety, and it talks about the school safety infrastructure enhancements, $211 million. May 2020, including amounts in Senate. There was a supplement, and then there was another bill that was passed. Budgeted for fiscal year 2019, there was new funding provided for school safety programs totaling $343.5 million. Where's this money going? How is it being spent? Is it being spent? Because we know that there were a lot of security allotments in the coronavirus spending bill for schools. Has that also been spent? Here are the questions that not a single politician, including many Republicans, Here are questions that not a single one of these politicians are asking. Number 1, how did this murderer get into the school? Number 2, what security did this school have? And how can we protect schools like we protect our concerts and our banks and our museums? Number 3, where were his parents and the adults in his life? Number 4, how did he obtain a handgun? That was something both law enforcement and Governor Abbott reported. How? He's 18. 18 USC 922. I think it's B1 states that you can't do that if you're under, you can't be running around with a handgun if you're under 21. Number 6, no one in his house saw what was going on. I'm going to tell you something. If you're going to insanely blame someone for the actions of an 18-year-old criminal who lived at home and dropped out of school, start in the home. And not with the millions of law-abiding people who carry every single day without issue.